At this stage in the package design, what we want to do is get something printed out of the Illustrator. Just make sure that it's going to come together. So maybe you've drawn on scratch paper and you've taken some measurements. Maybe you even scanned your drawing in and have it on a layer here. However you want to work is fine. I'm just going to mock something up here just for demo purposes and just point out a few things. So I'm just going to make arbitrary sizes here for the package design that we'll make together. But what you want to realize is that, like I showed you in the last video, this piece and this piece, so talking about, say, the front and the back, are going to be the same size. And then this piece and this piece need to be the same size. And it's nice to have those smart guides on to just kind of help you put everything together. So to make a flap for this, it's going to have to be this thickness here. So what I could do is make a copy of this, swing it around, holding the shift key down. And I know that it's going to have to be about that thick to bridge the gap going across there. And then again with those smart guides on, which if you don't see those, you just go up to view and turn on smart guides. So we got something like that. And if you remember from the one that we saw, it then had another piece on the front of here to help the lid stay in place. But it was quite a bit smaller. How much smaller? Well, that's the kind of stuff that you can start to experiment with a little bit. And you can take this, click on this anchor point here. If I want to get real accurate with how big I'm making this, and count how many times I'm clicking downwards. Let's say that was 12 times, and again, I'm using the direct selection tool. Nothing is selected. And so that way, when I do make a selection, I can select just that anchor point, click on it, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then no sense doing that again when I can just grab the regular selection tool, copy both of these things here, holding down the Option key, go over here, put my cursor around the corner, hold down the Shift key, swing these around, and then move that into place. Grab both of them, but no problem. Let's make the flaps that go under these flaps. So we know that there's one on each side, if we're comparing this to the design that I showed you. But keep in mind, there is no like absolute, there's many different ways to make these. But we know that it can't be any longer than this. So let's just try a happy medium, see how it works. If we don't feel like it's stable enough at this size, we'll make it about half of what it was. Then we can always go back and redo it. And we'll use that same procedure that we did before by just counting the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 maybe. And I'll do the same thing here. Now, if you remember back to the previous video, they were much more complicated than this, but this is a good starting point, right? We don't need to overly complicate things. So we'll try this out. One thing you can almost count on for sure here is that you're going to have to do things multiple times. And so we're just making a copy of this and flipping it around. And then we'll just go ahead and grab this and this, hold down the Option key, move that into place. Now it looks like the only thing that we're missing for sure is the glue flap at the bottom here. So we know that it can't be any bigger than this, right? Because it's going to go up against, well, actually it could be up to this whole size right here. Typically it's a little bit smaller just to save paper when you're making mass quantities, but you may decide that it actually works better for you if you make it the full length of the paper because it would give it a little more stability. So that's what I'm going to do in this case, just to see. But just to make it easier, I'm going to bring these corners in a little bit, just so that they don't get in our way. Okay, so that's the basics of the package. The only thing that we would be fighting with right now is all these lines, but one thing at a time. Now, layers is going to be your friend for this. So what you'll want to do is make a layer and just call this something like layout, because obviously you do not in the final version want to print this. And then we'll make another layer or two, and those could be called graphics or more explanation of what the graphics are. But in my case, all I'm going to do is just a simple front, back, and so on. But I want to put a color on here as well so that you get the idea of the bleeds. So I want to lock the layer that I named layout, and I'm just going to toggle the eyeball, make sure that's it, then lock it, and then make sure I'm on this layer when I start making my color blocks. This demo, let's pretend that all four sides are going to be blue. So I'll make a rectangle that covers all four sides, and it has that blue color. Now we know that we need a 1/8 of an inch bleed. So what we can do is just simply go to the properties panel, make sure that this transform point or reference point is right in the center, and then just simply add 1/4 of an inch to both of these. So I'll just put the cursor in here, go plus 0.25 because I'm in inches, and then tab down to the next one, put in a plus 0.25, and since it's growing from the center outwards, that should work. And what will really make this obvious is if we switch the layers around and put our graphic layers below the layout, and then now we can kind of see what's happening here. And what might even be better is if we take our layout layer now, I'll unlock it, grab everything that's on it, and we'll get rid of the white color in there. Bring it forward, and then now we can see through it. Now for some reason this looks like it just grew out this way. So let me look into why that might have happened. That's a strange one. It's not supposed to work like that. With this in the middle, it should add to both sides. So I subtracted 1/4 of an inch, and it just subtracted off of this side, even though this is in the middle. So what I'm going to do is just move this over here, go back up to my width, and this time I'm just going to put in plus 0.125, which is 1/8, and it should just grow on the left. Okay, and then with that selected still, we'll click over here, and then we'll go in there and put plus 0.125, and hopefully it does what I'm hoping. Yeah, so I don't know why I had to do that workaround, but there you have it. The only thing we don't have is color on the very top and bottom of the package, so let's go ahead, we'll lock that layout layer again, make sure we're working on the graphics layer. We'll grab the rectangle tool, and then we'll just go right over the top of this, and then we just need 1/8 of an inch sticking out all around. You can see this is where this gets a little bit complex, where the bleed can start to run into here, which isn't that big of a deal. But sometimes, you'll notice that you just get a good relationship with your printer, and then they'll tell you what you can get away with. But just to be on the safe side, we're going to grab this, do that same trick we did before where we add 1/4 of an inch all the way around with this in the center. And if it doesn't work, like the problem I had before, then we'll have to just add 1/8 and 1/8. And I did the same thing over here. And then what I'll do is I'll make one more layer, and then I'll just put the this would be for the typography. In our case, I'm just going to put front, back, top, bottom, and so on. So grab the text key, and I'll show you what I get. Okay, and you might have noticed that from the last video, I put my glue tab at the bottom here, whereas the way I drew it on the piece of paper, it would have been up here. But it really doesn't matter. A lot of this stuff can be changed around to suit you, or just whatever works. What we'll do next is I will print this out, and then I will trim it, put it together, make sure that it works, and then if it does, we'll go back in and we'll deal with the issue of how do we get rid of all these black lines here and still know where the package starts, stops, and where we make the folds and so on.